It's time for my impressions for today, and I really want to pick up on the topic that was discussed during the panel interview or the discussion we had with Mona Lisa, Kumar, and myself around budgeting and forecasting. This is something that I continue to learn from, and we should all continue to become better and better at budgeting, at forecasting. It affects our businesses very intensely because it is the insight from those budgets and forecasts that determines how we use our resources going into the future, how we allocate our resources. The thing that wasn't discussed enough in there was sensitivity analysis. And this is something I just want to touch on now. The sensitivity analysis, in terms of talking about the best case, worst case, the middle road in terms of where your business goes, talks to what are the levers, what are the most important levers in the business that can affect your business the most. Those might be, obviously, sales is the one, your costs might be the other, the margin. And so it's very important that you understand what your sales could be, what your margins could change to up and down, and what your costs could be, in order to determine whether or not you're going to have a business in a year or not. 4 things to think about around this. Is this really the worst case scenario? When you're doing the worst case scenario, ask yourself, is this really the worst case scenario? What could be even worse? Are these sales that I'm projecting to be worst case, is it really, or am I actually bolstering them a little bit, and that could be a little bit worse? Are my costs, are they really, really the highest cost that I can think of, or could other costs come up that, of course, decreases your profitability? Now, on the counter side to that is when you're going the highest case or best case scenario, is am I thinking big enough? It's quite a weird thing to ask. Am I being conservative enough? Am I really thinking through the worst case scenario? And then straight after that, you're thinking, am I thinking big enough? And this is very important, specifically when you go to investors who want to understand how big this thing can get. Understand that you understand the worst case scenario, but what I see too often is entrepreneurs that don't think big enough and want to build a small business. Investors, of course, want to invest in a business that can be much, much bigger and scalable. The third thing is to keep asking yourself when it comes to your assumptions, what am I missing when it comes to my assumptions? What am I basing my assumptions on? And believe me, when you're in front of an investor, in front of a bank manager, they're going to be asking you, how did you get to that number? So make sure that you understand to the nth degree how you got to that number, and make sure there's some deep logic behind that. And finally, what am I missing? Like, look at what are you missing in total? What are you missing in terms of costs that aren't in the budget that might come into the budget? And what about the risks that might affect the whole business model? What have you missed out there? So think about that around your sensitivity analysis.